Hello, hello, and welcome to your NARSA weekly update for the week commencing Monday, the 22nd of December 2025. It's Gary here again, and oh my word, this, I don't know how many times I've said this roller coaster of a season just doesn't seem like it's going to bear any positive fruit for us, quite frankly. Danny Rule's first league defeat, and of course it comes when that mob from the other end of the city get their first league, well, the first win actually under the new manager, and the scoreline yesterday didn't reflect the play at all, especially after the first 15-20 minutes. We'll get to that when we get to the game segment. But, it's one of these things. For the longest time, I've always been able to, and I think I've said this many times on the podcast, I've always been able to have that situation where I don't mind getting beat by the better team, which is what happened yesterday, by the way, just to get that caveat right out there. But when it comes to skills and when it comes to, the passage of play and just getting outdone by master strokes and stuff like that, these things can happen. And it happens to us fairly often, and more often of late than I would absolutely like. But see when we get outworked, see when we get outthought, see when we get, I don't know if it's outcoached. I don't know if yesterday was outcoached. I'm not 100% sure about that. I don't think anybody connected to the men's first team had a good day yesterday. But when we get out-attituded, I don't even think that's very good English or even proper English at all. But when that happens, it's a long, long day. And I tell you what, I hate it. It's just a threadbare squad right now. It's mediocre what we have right now. We don't have the energy, the drive, the obsession to win. We don't have the talent. We don't have the skill set. We don't have the attitude to be able to go and say we're going to take something from this game, or these guys at least are going to know that they were getting into a game. And as you could probably tell from the last couple of pods over the last wee while, I was doing that. I got sucked in again. I was doing that mental sports mathematics that I want to do now and again, saying, right, we win this game, we're only X amount of points behind with a game in hand, and if they Aberdeen, all that sort of stuff. And I got sucked in, and I've been quite good at that over the last couple of seasons, maybe more actually. And I just got sucked in, and I was excited. And then the second half yesterday put a massive cloud on me, because I don't think there's anybody, I try to be as positive as I possibly can, and I don't think anyone connected with the club yesterday thought for a second that we were going to come back, that we had 2 goals in us, never mind 3 goals in us, and we didn't or we had the resolve, I should say, at the back to give us that opportunity to say no more goals, no more chances, no more scares. We're going to go and do what we need to do. And so basically that kind of hour, it just put me on a downer. I was under a dark cloud for quite a lot in the morning yesterday, and I've done my best, honestly, folks, over the last few years, as I say, to kind of have a degree of separation between the result, the performance, how I feel about it, and my life. And I got sucked back in on the weekend yesterday, and it was just a stark reminder. It's very, very disappointing. I was chatting with my sister Debbie afterwards, and she'd summed it up. I had actually wrote a note to remind myself to say this on the pod, but it's the hope that kills you. It's just one of these things, like when you have that hope and then it doesn't come to fruition, and then you get to a spot where reality bites, I guess, is really what happened yesterday. And it's just very, very disappointing. I don't want to be texting pals from all over the world and all over the continent, for that matter, with a bunch of negativity. And I know that they don't want to text me with that sort of negativity. And that's what we ended up in a spiral of yesterday. And it was just absolutely awful. And I had a thought where I'm like, I am literally wasting my time on this club. I need to do a podcast about this tomorrow. I need to try and pretend that this doesn't matter. I'm sick of promoting this team to friends and family, and they're kind of like, I don't really understand what you're doing. And then there's not a lot coming back the other way. Now, with the benefit of hindsight, with the benefit of over 24 hours to absorb this, there are some benefits to be taken from this, and I would much rather have that type and style of performance before the transfer window opens rather than after the transfer window opens, because that can only strengthen the management team's resolve or stance or position to be able to say this needs an overhaul, and even some of the more established players that are there are not contributing to the cause, and that's not so great. And see, here's another thing. Like you know when you're in a negative spiral, and then you get to a point where all you can see is negativity. Like, I'm in a bad mood, and I'm like, why is that there? The Christmas tree that looks kind of stupid. The weather's daft here. What's even the point of being in Calgary? All this stupid stuff. But see, every time they go to the bench these days, and it just seems to have been from the start of the season. The very first person I remember doing it was Russell Martin. And the very first, you go to the bench, or you go to the sideline, and now and again, Danny Rule is standing there and he's kind of looking, and he does seem to be quite interactive on the sideline. So he's not just kind of standing there with that glacial look on his face. But a lot of the times they go there and they're watching the TV. They're looking at the analysis and such like that. And I understand that they're probably trying to see whether that was a yellow card or whether that was worthy of a VAR review or whatever that looks like. I'm not 100% actually sure what they're doing, but I could see the method of doing that. You don't need everybody to do that, though. You need some people. Like, you're going to see more in person. For me, it's like having a meeting on Zoom or Teams or Google Meet or whatever any of the other platforms are, and then having a meeting in person. In person is just infinitely better. You get to see and feel the atmosphere. You get to absorb the body language. You get to really understand the cadence of how the interaction is going. And it's the exact same with any sort of spectator sport. If you ever watch it on the TV and then go and watch it live in person, yes, you miss some stuff, but you get a different feel and flavour for that. And all too often, it seems like we're watching the telly. And I don't understand that. Like, going to watch the game, you can maybe influence a wee bit more, because it feels like I have as much influence watching it from 4,000 miles away as they do if they're watching the telly from 15 feet away. I don't understand it. But I tell you what, folks, the way that things are going right now, we are going to struggle to finish in third place. We're not even halfway through the season, but there's no cause for optimism. We get ourselves into a wee bit of a position, we get a wee bit excited, and then when the real challenge comes, we fall flat. And yesterday was a marker for both teams, and only one team came out with any sort of credibility, and it wasn't us. It was Hearts. And how do I feel about someone else outside the Old Firm winning it? I really couldn't care less. Honestly, I don't. I just care about us. But if it was to be someone else, I would much rather it be Hearts than that mob from the East End. A bit early for that sort of talk, but that's kind of where things are at for me for right now. So yeah, just a mess. Anyway, on to the game. The game segment 2-1. The scoreline did not, as I mentioned in the intro there, reflect whatsoever the game in and of itself. We did have the disallowed goal, which I think Majowski probably had to touch it. It looked like it was going to come off the post and maybe go past. And then with our asking header, which kind of went close from a James Tavernier cross. And then we go down 1-0 from a set piece. We are all at sea. Like, Jack Butland, under no pressure whatsoever, just basically gives them the ball. How many times has he done that over the last wee while, by the way? And Jack, no Super Jack anymore, man. Absolutely not. And we were just all at sea after he has that nonsense ball coming out. And the second goal, what was that, 3 or 4 minutes later, is just an absolute joke. So there's a couple of things. Yeah, everybody will focus on the absolute howler from Jack Butland. He moved out the way. He literally moved his leg out the way so the ball could go in. Like, I know it's such a cliche, folks, but that's schoolboy stuff. That's a pathetic, disgusting, stupid mistake by someone who should know better. And he should come out and apologise to everybody for doing that. Yeah, Danny Rule kind of underplayed it a wee bit, or downplayed it a wee bit, I should say, sorry, in the post-match press conference, saying if a goalkeeper makes a mistake, it's typically, it's the worst of consequences because it will be a goal. Understand that. And, he puts himself out there and he is the best goalkeeper we have, but he's not good enough based on that. And it's not a huge surprise, so he had a major hand in both goals, especially the second. But we know the types and styles of play that Hearts have. Surely we do, because we watch the telly. Remember what I just said there? We're watching the telly, we're watching the footage, we're watching the skills and strengths of the other team. So how does Lawrence Shankland get all that space with that knock-on in there? Like, the defending, it was kind of non-existent yesterday. I know that, and I know I'm somewhat preaching to the converted, but oh boy, that was Jack Butland at his worst. That was Jack Butland when Barry Ferguson had to take him out of the team last year. It was absolutely a mess. And no one had any hope that we were going to actually. I'm going to speak for myself. I had no hope whatsoever that we had 3 goals in us. But I'm hopeful and stuff, and you're looking at the clock and you're like, well, you never know, we got a goal right now and we'll see what that looks like. But I thought at the beginning of the game, the first, what would you say, 20, 25 minutes, we got that goal, thought it was in, but you could see it was offside. There was no issue with that. I don't have any qualms at all with the decision. And you're like, right, okay, we're up for this. This is okay. But what I noticed is Hearts are way more disciplined now than they used to be. I think we were expecting the hell for leather Hearts that we get, the fans really on top of things, and they're trying to kind of really put us off our game and get us all a wee bit kind of frantic and panicky. And they were very controlled and measured. And I think really the first 20, 25 minutes, they were just working us out. They were just kind of saying, right, okay, what are they playing? You've seen Derek McInnes, as soon as the game kicked off, he's saying, right, these guys are playing a 5-4-2 or whatever, a 3-4-2, whatever it was that we were playing. But, they were working us out. And then once they had us worked out, they did what they needed to do to win the game. And it could have been more. Shanklin missed a couple in the second half, and Butland made a decent save and such like that. So that's us 12 points behind Hearts. There is zero chance, based on current form, current squads, current momentum, that we are bringing back 12 points in the second half of the season. And, that was a literal 6-pointer yesterday, but there was more than that yesterday, and we're just not good enough. And I think that's a disappointing thing. I kind of hoped that we were, but Danny Rowell doesn't have a magic wand, and some of our key players, James Tavernier had a very, very off game. Butland was a disaster. Raskin was non-existent. Mikey Moore was, one or two moments, but absolutely not his best. We didn't give Majowski any sort of opportunity, really, other than the offside goal, to do anything meaningful. Like, the whole team was just kind of rubbish. Yeah, Fernandez had a couple of shots. I mean, essentially, he had 2 free headers, and he didn't score, but he didn't get on the target with any 2 of them. So yeah, it's nice to see him upset and, kind of complaining at his teammates and such like that. But you put yourself in the position, that was Connor Goldson-esque. Like, why go up and put yourself in a position if you're just going to blaze it over the bar? That's nonsense. That's useless. That's a waste of time. So I think they've got, if you look at what Hearts have got and what Rangers don't have, they have discipline, they have momentum, they have desire, they're ruthless in taking their opportunities, and they have team spirit and camaraderie. You can tell that they were all together. Each of the goals, the fans in them right now have that bond and that connection that a couple of our managers over the last couple of years have talked about, and we don't have that. We don't, and our recruiting is sadly lacking. Our injury list is growing by the minute. The players that we have in reserve are not good enough to win games that we need to win to mount a serious challenge. And as I said, 3rd place is absolutely the best that we can hope for right now as it stands, and it's going to be a struggle. And it's really going to be a struggle. In terms of the positives from yesterday's game, the only positive that I can really take from yesterday's game was, well, you know what? Actually, let's be fair. Yusuf Chermiti getting a goal at the very end. I had actually went in to the media room to turn Rangers TV off right away and get everybody out of there right away. As soon as I go in, he scores a goal, and everyone's like, stay in there. And just in case I could get the second goal. And I was raging. And I hate being like that. I work really, really hard on myself every single day to give myself the best opportunity to be the best version of myself. And yesterday was not my best work for a football game. That's not good enough. It's not good enough from a personal perspective. But the best, it was good. So good for him for getting a good goal. I think in terms of the scoreline, I think it could have been worse for us. So taking 2-1 at the end of the day, even for goal difference, it helps us a wee bit. Fernandez doing what he did, in terms of trying to G up the players and look like he actually cares, is kind of buoying. But the best part of the whole game, my good pal Hammy brought me essentially 3 meals in one roll. There was a roll, and there was like cheese and ham and a Scotch pie and black pudding, and it was the most delicious thing. I had to eat half of it. I'm just a wee guy. If you've met me, you'll know that. And I ate half of it. Erin had a wee bit, and then I finished off the rest for lunch. It was like all day meal and a bun and a roll, and it was absolutely brilliant. That was a highlight of my day. In terms of the negatives, the 2 goals were pathetic, especially the second one, just off. I mean, embarrassing for a player of that stature to let that goal in. We were outworked, and none of our big players showed up. As I said, that was our worst game for a while. It really was. It was awful to watch, and it's just synonymous of who and where we're at for right now. In terms of the stats, Hearts were quite happy to give us the ball. The Rangers website said we had 57% possession. We had 7 shots with 2 on target. Feels about right. I don't know about 7 in total, but the 2 on target feels about right versus 12 shots with 5 on target. And that feels about right, and we'll see that. And in terms of the referee, I was not looking forward to Nick Walsh refereeing the game. The game was played in a decent manner. You've got their Devlin who goes around, basically battering everybody before he gets a wee stern talking to, but we gave it back to him yesterday, and we didn't fall for his antics or his tactics or anything like that, and it seemed like Nick Walsh didn't either. And I've no complaints, so he's going to get a 7 out of 10. And it's just good when you have a referee that doesn't disappoint you as much as you thought he was going to disappoint you, so I'll take that. In terms of the next games, it's Motherwell. Now, this is a big game for us because this is an opportunity to go ahead of them in the table to 3rd place and be in 3rd position going into the new year, and who would have thought that would have been the case, and who would have thought the league table would have looked the way that it looks for right now. Some interesting games coming up in the race. That obviously 3rd are playing 4th, Hearts are playing Hibs, and that mob are away to Livingston, and Livingston are scrapping a lot and just not getting the results that they kind of deserve over this last wee while. So hopefully this weekend might, next weekend's podcast might be super upbeat again, and I might be like, oh, well, you never know, folks. All that silly stuff that I do. But it's on Saturday, the 27th of December, and that's a 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time kickoff. That's 3 p.m. in the UK. If we win that game, we go ahead of them, and I think we've still got a game in hand, maybe 2 games in hand over Motherwell, so we'll see what that looks like. But Saturday is all the more poignant because that would have been my mum's 80th birthday on Saturday had she been alive. She passed away, unfortunately, 8 years ago. Now, 8 years, absolutely incredible amount of time has passed since then, and it's one of those things, that. Is it 8? It is 8. Yeah, 8 years. 8 years ago last week there, and it was a sad day. So that would have been a happy heavenly birthday. I think that's what everyone says online, isn't it? But I thought she'd have still been around at 80, so that's maybe a wee shout out early. Speaking of shout outs, Orlando Rangers Supporters Club is 30 years old. They are having a day of all days at the Old Firm game on the 3rd of January, where they're going to have the game in the morning, and then they're going to reconvene a wee bit later on in the day. I think it says like 6 to midnight or something like that, and it's 6 to whenever you can pour yourself out of the pub, and that's of course going to be at Murphy's Pub, 6 p.m. in Murphy's Pub, Orlando, or Tav's Tavern as they like to call it, and you'll get an opportunity to see the game in the morning, hopefully see us give them a little bit of a pasting and a great start to the new year. You could go do the Disney parks or Universal, or just have a hangout at the pool, get yourself refreshed, and then head back to celebrate 30 years. 30 years is absolutely incredible. And for the work that Colin and his team have done there, and most of the time Colin and his team is Colin on his own. If anyone runs a club, you might notice or recognise or sympathise or empathise with that type of style of thing. It happens now and again when you're running a club. It's a bit of a labour of love, and you just need to keep going, and that's what he's absolutely done, and he's doing great work for us on the communication side as well. So the 3rd of January, Saturday the 3rd of January, 6 p.m. at Murphy's Pub. And speaking of pubs and such, the Rangers Supporters Club of Calgary are having our annual New Year bash at Pinbar, and that's going to be on Wednesday the 31st of December, of course, Hogmanay, and we're starting, I think it's around about 2 o'clock, 2 or 3 o'clock. The bells are coming in at 5 o'clock. For us, I'll say a wee speech. It will be brilliant. It will be fun. It will be funny. It will be poignant. There's a wee surprise or two in there. People don't tell me things are a secret, and I say it on my speech, and they're like, yeah, that wasn't for public consumption, Gary. I'm like, whoops, well, everybody knows now. So things like that are going to happen. You never quite know what you're going to get. So it would be great if you're in or around the Calgary area. We'd love to see you there, and we'll have a good time. And we're going to put a wee bit of food on and such. Our financial reserves are not what they were before because the team are honking and nobody comes. And when nobody comes, we don't get the game fees. And then when we don't get the game fees, we're in debt. and it's a going out of business plan is exactly what that is, unfortunately. But I would love to see you at Pinbar next week, and we'll have a great time when we are doing that. Also, Andy Burnett, as you might remember from last week's pod, if you listened or watched, they are having a NARCO event down in Myrtle Beach. I made a complete mess of the email address both during the pod and on the pod notes last week. Oh my God, it's live TV, folks, is what I said to folks on the NARSA WhatsApp group. But that is from February the 12th to the 15th. On Thursday, they're at the Old Bull and Bush pub. Friday, Saturday and Sunday, there's going to be golf. My understanding is it's still TBD, and he hasn't given me any details about what that looks like. Friday afternoon, they're going to be at Myrtle's Inlet for lunch and drinks. I've no idea what that is. And then back at the pub, the Old Bull and Bush on Friday night. Saturday is the Rangers versus Hearts game. Chance for revenge. Do you know what I said actually before? I didn't mention this during the game segment. Last week I had said I'm really looking forward to righting the wrongs of the game at Ibrox, because we should have won that game at Ibrox and we were subject to 3 absolutely terrible refereeing decisions, 2 that went in their favour and 1 that went against us. And it was absolutely ridiculous what happened there. I don't have any complaints about any of that from there. You know, Hearts deserved the victory. They got the victory, and that's fair enough. So fair play to that. But we have an opportunity to give ourselves that chance to say you're not going to win it easy here, folks. So we're playing Hearts on the morning of that, which I guess would be the 14th. Oh, Valentine's Day for that at the Kakalaki Loyal. And that's Barry Bryson's wonderfully named Rangers Supporters Club down there. And there is a curry night at the Masala Indian Bistro. And then Sunday morning golf and Sunday afternoon a leaving do at the Old Bull and Bush. The Old Bull and Bush are going to do very well that weekend. Now, the contact email is, and write this one down because it's actually true, it's NARCO2025 at outlook.com. NARCO 2025 at outlook.com. I got a wee bit confused last week. I was thinking, why would they not just make it 2026? But you don't want to recreate or create, I should say, a brand new email every single year. So keep the one that people have been using from before. It's a good idea. I said on the NARSA list last week, or on the show notes actually originally, it was NARSA 2025. I wasn't thinking. You know, mistakes happen, folks. That's what happens. I'm just a human being. So, yeah, NARCO2025 at outlook.com, and Andy will give you all the information that you need. Another reminder that Amanda and Jason Jr. Ross are running the London Marathon on behalf of the Royal British Legion. That's coming up here, must be 4 months from now, roughly-ish, there or thereabouts. And another shout-out for the live show that David Edgar, CJ Novo and Stevie Clifford are doing at Edmiston House on the 9th of January. That's just like 2 weeks away and such. I was going to see if I could get CJ Novo or Stevie Clifford on today, but my heart just wasn't in it, folks, to be perfectly honest with you. I just wanted to get the podcast done and dusted and out of the way as quickly as I could. Maybe they might come on next week for one last wee push, but my understanding is the ticket sales are going fairly well. So that's great in that respect. On the convention update, it's 170 days and 24 weeks until Destination Nashville 2026. That's, of course, June the 11th to the 14th, which is the World Cup opening weekend. The hotel is out for booking, and at the last number I got, I think we were about 85% sold out on the hotel rooms. So if you are thinking of coming, please do get your hotel room booked. It's not guaranteed that we would get more rooms if it comes to the fact that we would sell out. And we are continuing to work on and refine the itinerary. We had a meeting about that last week, and it's going to be centered around the standard fare that we typically have from a convention perspective, and on a destination NARSA perspective, we're going to just mix that up a wee bit, and I'll be able to share a wee bit more about that. But we do have the ticket prices. The ticket prices are going to be $199 US for all 3 nights. That's $199 all in, and no booking fees or anything like that on top of that. And we have Colin is working on the website right now. We'll get the link out to you, hopefully within the show notes of this week's pod. And if you're looking for a last minute gift for anyone for the summertime-ish next year, Destination NARSA in Nashville is the absolute thing that you can do. We are going to be having the welcome night. We're going to be having the Tam Plunkett Blue night. We're going to be having the Walter Smith Grand Banquet, with a little bit of a twist. We're maybe not going to have them on the nights that we typically have them, and we're going to fashion it around the World Cup and round about the various events that we have as well. So I'll be able to to hopefully put a wee bit more work in with the guys over the next couple of days here, get the itinerary organised, sorted and figured out, and then we will be in good shape for that. We're also working, Brian and Alan are also working very, very hard on identification, contacting and essentially, selling or marketing or negotiation with some key high level, VIP personnel that are going to make the event, something to be remembered. So yeah, really, really looking forward to this one. $199 US. The tickets will be on sale very, very quickly here. The ticket experience, the ticket buying, purchasing experience is going to be absolutely smooth as silk for you. We tested it yesterday. It works an absolute treat. And we did meet as a NARSA executive last week, and we got an opportunity, mostly talking around the Destination NARSA event for next year and the logistics and lining up with what the plans were, or the proposed plans were, and we've got alignment on that as well. We did a wee bit of chat about constitutional review and the meetings with the presidents and secretaries of each club. Again, just a reminder, if you have received an email or you haven't received an email, please go look in your junk folder. And if you haven't received an email, reach out directly to me and I'll put you in touch with Gary Fleming, the NARSA VP, who is spearheading or quarterbacking this effort to give an opportunity for your club to say, we don't like this, we really appreciate that, we would like a bit more of this and a bit less of that. It's an open conversation for you to be able to get your club wants, needs and desires heard and maybe acted upon as well. So yeah, it was a busy week there as we lead up towards the end of the year here. In terms of the Gers guide, there was a Gers guide indeed this week, and it was actually out quite early. And today there is the Rangers women's team highlights on Rangers TV. Interestingly, no away days for the men's team. I wonder how that is in terms of overall communications. Actually, we had a meeting with Nick Thompson from the Rangers communications team there last week, and myself, Alan McWatt, NARSA president, and Colin Bowman, the NARSA communications director, just to do an introduction to Nick. I've known Nick for many, many years, and just talk about what's possible, achievable, where we can basically co-support each other. The meeting went very well, and we're going to continue the dialogue as we are going forward. But yeah, there was no point to be doing the away days today. I think we only do it when we win, don't we? Okay. On Tuesday, there's going to be a loan review. And interestingly, the press conference for the Motherwell game on the weekend is going to be tomorrow as well. So it's not going to be like Friday, which we would typically expect. So I don't know how much we'll get in terms of injury updates and such like that, but it'll be interesting because it's quite soon after an absolute stink bomb of a performance. So it'll be interesting to see what Danny Rule says there. And then there's a section tomorrow on Rangers TV for Kenny Miller. All the goals. Kenny Miller is going to be there. Scored a lot of goals for Rangers over his 3 spells with us. So that'll be for fun watch. On Wednesday and Thursday, there's Christmas challenges and Christmas messages that are coming out from the club. Not a lot going on Friday. Saturday's the Rangers versus Motherwell game. And then on Sunday, there's a feature on Life Behind the Lens with women's striker Sarah Ewens. And she shadows one of the photographers on a match day and just goes and sees what that's like. And it's a bit of a feature. Good to get to know the players on the women's team side as well. No women's games, I don't think, until like mid-January now. I guess they must have a winter shutdown, which is good for them to recharge and refuel and get going again. But speaking of the women's team, they had a very solid result yesterday, 3-0 away to Aberdeen, back to second in the table, but level on points with both Hearts and that mob from the East End. But the table looks a wee bit better, still 7 points behind Glasgow City, and we'll see how that goes. But all they can do is continue to win games, same as a guys' team, isn't it, really? So, but a good result there. Always good to get a clean sheet and always good to get a win over Aberdeen, especially away from home. There was information on the Rangers website last week that they were sending out to their email distribution list, which I imagine has hundreds of thousands of people on it, or tens of thousands anyway, a match day and hospitality study, which will look at the stadium's current setup and the overall infrastructure, as well as assessing the capacity needs and redevelopment options and plans and thoughts for the future. And it also will explore how people can improve, or how the club can help people improve their match day experience, from bars to social spaces to travel to and from, to essentially the whole experience. If you haven't received an email, and by the way, I haven't, check your junk mail. I have, still don't have one. And if you're really looking forward to contributing to that study, you can email contact@rangers.co.uk. That's contact@rangers.co.uk. To get it on the list, you need to act fast on this though, folks, because the survey closes on the 26th of December. Very short window there, which is quite interesting. So it looks like they've almost done some feasibility work, and then they're trying to maybe just get some results from the fans that are interested to provide information to see if that correlates with the feasibility results. That's what I think anyway. I have no idea whether that's true or not. And just another reminder, if you can give us a wee bit of comment and commentary on our new format for the podcast. Of course, we are on video now, and we are going to continue to produce video because Stephen Johnson told me I had to continue to produce video. And if you like the video, great. If you don't, let us know about that as well. The numbers are no different really, but hopefully over time, this is only, third week in a row that we've done video. I'll continue to do it as long as I can, and we'll see how it goes. But any feedback you can provide would be great, and please do like and subscribe on our YouTube channel. That's what helps us know and understand whether we're actually doing a good job or not. Okay, my friends, that will do it for this week. That will do it this side of Christmas. I was given strict instructions from the remainder of the NARSA executive on Wednesday night's meeting. Or was it Tuesday? I think it was Wednesday. Wednesday's meeting, that I was to wish everyone a very, very, very happy, happy Christmas. Whatever your preferred salutation is in terms of Christmas. But from me and the entire NASA executive, have an absolutely wonderful Christmas. I hope Santa is very, very good to you, and I hope that you pray an extra wee bit for a good performance and result against Motherwell on the weekend here, folks. So until next week, have a great time. Take care of yourself and all the very best, okay? Follow.